A few years back, KTM wasn't just a bike. It was a dream. Heads turned every time one rode past. Post a photo on Instagram, and comments would flood in within minutes. People could recognize the exhaust note before they even saw the bike. Bro, KTM's coming. That's how loud its identity was. Performance, style, and pure thrill. No other bike in that price range had that combination. Today, that same KTM is quietly disappearing from the streets. Showrooms have gone silent. Several dealerships have shut down completely, and the bike that once had waiting lists just to get a unit now can't even find buyers willing to take it off the shelf. Some riders have started tagging it the fallen legend's bike. Others call it worse. So here's the question. How did the machine that once made an entire generation of Indian youth obsessed with it end up here? What actually caused KTM's downfall? And more importantly, does KTM still have a secret weapon left to make a real comeback? Let's break down the entire story. Where it all began. Austria, not India, is where this story actually starts. KTM was born in a small workshop back in 1934 when an engineer named Hans Trunkenpols opened a repair shop that would eventually become KTM, Kronrafe, Trunkenpols, Mattighofen. Rugged, off-road machines defined the brand in its early decades, tough bikes built for rough terrain. By the 1990s, though, KTM reinvented itself completely. Ruggedness took a back seat. Speed, performance, and bold styling became the new identity. How did this small Austrian brand end up owning Indian streets? The answer begins in 2007 when Bajaj Auto, one of India's biggest two-wheeler names, bought roughly a 14.5% stake in KTM. Bajaj wanted a strong global performance partner. KTM wanted access to a market full of young, trend-hungry riders. It was a win-win from day one. By 2012, KTM had officially entered India, launching its first bike here. The Duke 200, priced at just Indian rupee 17,000. Nothing like it existed in India at that price point. Sporty, aggressive, and premium-looking all at once. The Duke 200 didn't just launch a bike. It redefined what biking meant for an entire generation. The rise. Marketing-wise, KTM refused to play by the usual rulebook. It didn't talk about mileage. It didn't talk about comfort. Instead, it leaned entirely into ready to race, a tagline built for riders chasing speed and thrill, not practicality. That message hit home instantly. TV ads, social campaigns, and aggressive brand positioning gave KTM a completely different identity from every other bike on Indian roads. Real performance backed up the hype, too. The Duke 200's lightweight frame made city traffic and winding hill roads feel effortless. Performance, aggression, pure racing spirit. That was KTM's core DNA, and riders felt it the moment they twisted the throttle. Once, Pulsar, Apache, and Charisma ruled the performance segment. Quietly, KTM took the crown from all three. Status symbols don't get built overnight, but KTM managed it fast. A bike parked on almost every college campus, stunt videos going viral on YouTube, showrooms opening across every major metro city as the company capitalized on the momentum. Riding that wave, KTM launched the Duke 390 in 2014 at Indian rupee 25,000, setting a new benchmark for performance to price value. Its 390 cubic centimeters liquid-cooled engine, 44 bhp output, and slipper clutch were genuine game-changers for the entire industry. Next came the iconic RC series, aggressive to look at, pure racetrack DNA to ride. KTM wasn't just selling motorcycles in India anymore. It was introducing the country to an entirely new, international-level performance biking culture. Long mountain rides, YouTube review culture, riding communities, KTM's presence was everywhere. It wasn't a machine anymore. It was a dream millions of young riders were chasing. Cracks, though, form at exactly the same speed as success. And KTM's cracks started showing almost as fast as its rise. where it all started breaking. Nothing about this collapse happened overnight. It was a slow bleed, one flaw stacking on top of another. Practicality was the first casualty. Anyone wanting a bike for long rides and daily city commuting simply didn't fit the KTM mold. Its powerful engine overheated fast in traffic. Side panels got so hot that riders complained about resting their feet comfortably. Suspension was rock hard, brutal on bad Indian roads. Riding posture forced a forward lean. Fine for a quick spirited ride, exhausting for daily use. Thin, hard seats gave riders back pain within an hour. Mileage was the next blow. Competing 200 cubic centimeters bikes were delivering 40 to 50 km per liter. KTM sat stuck at 25 to 30. Fuel prices kept climbing every year, and that gap started hurting middle-class buyers hard. Prices climbed too, and fast. The Duke 200 that once cost Indian rupee 1,20,000 was now touching Indian rupee 2,30,000. Servicing, insurance, spare parts, everything got more expensive. A basic service on a normal 200 cubic centimeters bike cost 800 Indian rupees to 1,200 Indian rupees. A basic KTM Duke service? 2,500 Indian rupees to 4,000 Indian rupees. Even the oil wasn't spared. KTM's high-performance engine needed synthetic oil, and a single liter cost over 1,000 Indian rupees. Regret, in other words, arrived embarrassingly fast after the excitement of buying one. Maintenance became a genuine financial burden for middle-class owners. Riders who bought a KTM in a moment of excitement were often looking to sell it within 6 or 7 months. Here's the part that really stings. KTM priced itself like a premium brand without ever backing that price up. Service quality, reliability, and customer support never matched the tag. Royal Enfield also raised prices during this period, sure, but Royal Enfield paired that with stronger service networks, better build quality, and real investment in customer loyalty. KTM did none of that. Its customer base shrank into a small, loyal core while everyone else quietly switched to other brands. Quality took the next hit. Early Duke and RC models were built to full European standards. Once local assembly and local parts manufacturing kicked in, though that standard slipped fast. Loose tank panel fittings, fiber body parts turning dull within months, and reports of paint peeling and strange noises within just 6 months of ownership. Service turned into its own nightmare. Something as basic as a clutch cable could leave a customer waiting 10 to 15 days. Complaints flooded YouTube, bike forums, and Reddit threads. KTM never took any of it seriously, arguably its biggest failure of all. Brand loyalty didn't survive that neglect. By May 2024, monthly sales had dropped to 4,525 units from 5,115 a year earlier, an 11.53% year-on-year decline. Repeat buyers tell the real story here. Riders who once started with a Duke 200 and dreamed of upgrading to a Duke 390 or RC 390 a few years later began shifting instead to Royal Enfield, Yamaha, or TVS. It wasn't just India. India wasn't the only market feeling this. Over the last decade, KTM expanded into Southeast Asia, Latin America, and Europe, but failed to understand local riding cultures and needs in each of those regions. One size fits all doesn't work in motorcycles. Some markets needed rugged reliability, others needed affordability, and KTM offered the same product everywhere regardless. Global connection with riders started fading as a direct result. Meanwhile, the entire industry was shifting toward electric vehicles. Royal Enfield, TVS, and Hero were investing heavily in EVs back home in India. Competitors in Europe and America were pouring massive investment into the EV segment too. KTM, by contrast, stayed stuck in its old petrol-powered DNA. Its first electric bike, the E-Duke, never even made it past the testing phase. Forward-thinking racing innovation used to define this brand. Quietly, it started looking outdated instead. The collapse. Production never slowed down, and that turned out to be KTM's biggest mistake of all. Demand kept falling, yet factories kept churning out the same volume of bikes as before. Inventory piled up. Costs spiraled out of control. Trying to fix that first mistake led straight into a second one, slashing the R&D budget to control expenses. New technology development slowed down, hitting product quality and the riding experience even harder. By this point, the crisis reached far beyond sales numbers or brand image. It hit the company financially and hard. KTM's parent company, Pure Mobility AG, had to begin bankruptcy proceedings last year, carrying nearly 2 billion euros, roughly 19,000 Indian rupees crore, in debt. Around 2,500 creditors were demanding repayment, including Bank of China, ICBC, and Paycar Bank, among several other major international lenders. Liquidity simply wasn't there. A restructuring plan followed in February 2025, pay back 30% of the debt, and have a remaining 70% written off. Creditors, somewhat surprisingly, accepted it. Even after that relief, KTM still owed roughly 5,200 Indian rupees crore, due by May 23, 2025. Paper relief, though, doesn't pay real bills. Hundreds of employees went unpaid for months. Dealers never received their due payments. Several showrooms shut down completely, some permanently locked. Warehouses told their own story. Around 26,000 unsold motorcycles sitting idle, built but with no buyers waiting for them. Demand forecasting had clearly badly failed. Heavy discounts are now the company's survival tactic, just to keep enough cash flow for daily operations. Some countries have gone as far as clearance sales on 2023 models. Matters got serious enough that Pure Mobility AG is now planning to sell off assets and exit certain markets entirely, cutting operating costs to focus purely on core markets. Complete bankruptcy is the alternative if this restructuring plan fails too. The comeback attempt. Even after all of this, KTM hasn't given up. Fresh funding of around 800 million euros, nearly 7,500 Indian rupees crore, is what the company is now trying to raise to get operations back on track. Partners, more than anything else, are KTM's real weapon in this fight, the ones who stood by the company through the worst of it. Bajaj Auto tops that list. 150 million euros, around 1,435 Indian rupees crore, is what Bajaj has invested into KTM at a moment when the company barely had enough money to keep operations running. Timely support like that may have been genuinely life-changing for KTM's survival. CF Moto stepped up too, KTM's Chinese partner since 2018, handling its dealer network there, expressing intent to invest anywhere between 350 euros to 700 million euros into KTM's future. Cost-cutting, supplier renegotiation, and a sharper focus on markets where KTM's brand still carries real weight round out Pure Mobility's own restructuring push. Together, it's at least a framework for survival, even if the road back is long and far from guaranteed. Maybe that's exactly why, even after everything it's been through, KTM can still say with confidence, "We are ready to race again." So what do you think? Can KTM actually pull off a real comeback? Or is this the beginning of the end? Drop your thoughts in the comments.